Hello, everyone. It's Dr. James Marcum with another biblical prescription for life. And I'm so happy to be here with you once again. You know, we've had some interesting discussions over the last years. We've talked anything from pandemic to pancreatic insufficiency. We're talking about all these interesting medical topics, and you're sharing it with your friends and neighbors, and it's just growing. And I just want to thank you so much. And the real message we want to get out there is where real healing comes from. That's why we point back to scriptures. And if we go back to scriptures, we get some very interesting suggestions about nutrition, where the original diet in Genesis was one that has a plant-based diet. And today, specifically, I want to talk about some of the things I use in cardiovascular disease for disease reversal. And the literature shows that you can reverse cardiovascular disease. Dean Ornish, Dr. Esselstyn, many others have shown disease reversal. I've seen it in my practice. Now, not everyone can achieve disease reversal, but I've never seen a plant-based nutrition hurt anybody, except in taking off medications if you don't get off the medication fast enough. Well, today, I am so privileged, and you're privileged too. Today, we have one of the pioneers in this new treatment for disease prevention in Plant Pure Nation, Nelson Campbell, who with his father, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who has done tons of research. They are the ones that initiated many years back this revolution that now everyone's talking about. I don't know if everyone realized a decade ago, you could not get a healthy meal in any restaurant. But through the China study, through his original film, Plant Pure Nation, through his communities, through the websites, now everyone knows about it. And Nelson, everyone else has jumped on the bandwagon. So I'm glad that Nelson Campbell, one of the pioneers, and I know sometimes when you're a pioneer, your rewards aren't necessarily here on earth, but I'll tell you, your rewards are being in the bank in heaven. You're making big deposits every day in the health of people and getting them back to the way God wants us to live. And so Nelson, I'm so thankful that you spent the time to be here and tell us about the new film that you've just produced, because this is key for people that want to start reversing disease. And tell us a little bit about the disease that you proved that you could reverse with plant-based nutrition.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim. So we just produced a film and we're now releasing it called From Food to Freedom. And if you want to watch that film, you simply go to foodtofreedomfilm.com. So what we did, Jim, and this was our second film, as you noted, we did an earlier one called Plant Pure Nation,
yes,
which you, of course, were in, and folks can find that on Amazon. But this film, From Food to Freedom, was a very interesting film. It demonstrated the powerful healing benefits of a plant-based diet. So we took 6 people with type 2 diabetes. All of them coming into the program were taking insulin, and they've been suffering for quite a while with this disease. We put them in a house with 2 great chefs, including my wife, who's a nationally regarded cookbook author and chef, and then another chef friend, Fernando Peralta. We had some physician support. We did education. We did a little exercise, but they were there for 10 days in a house together in Greensboro, and we filmed the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And what we showed is that within days, that disease process starts to reverse. And by the end of the 10 days, of the 6 people who had diabetes and taking insulin, 5 of them were off their insulin. And this was all data driven. So they were wearing, as you know, these Libre monitors so they could be monitored 24/7. And so, we could see the glucose, the blood numbers, the blood glucose numbers. And the doctor had to take them off the insulin, or they could have suffered serious consequences, because their bodies were starting to produce insulin again. They didn't need all that insulin medication. And so it was really, really incredible to see a disease like that afflicts so many people reverse within just a few days.
Now, the skeptics might say, well, yeah, they had a great cooks. Everyone did it for them. So what happened long term? I know this is
Yes.
one of the groups you followed long term as well.
Yeah, so what we did, Jim, is we caught up with those six people. And by the way, two brought their spouses, so there were
Okay.
eight
Yeah.
total, but six kind of participants. Um, but we caught up with them 6 months later and went out to their hometowns and their houses to see how they were doing. Of the six people, three were still plant-based and enjoying all those benefits. But the three others were struggling. And one person, she just had a lot of financial stress in her life and was under a lot of financial pressure. And also she didn't have the social support. You know, she had a friend who kind of mocked her for what she was doing and just didn't have any social support. The other person, her husband wouldn't support her. And so she was the one in the house who did all the shopping and the cooking and I worked on him. I tried to to persuade him, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't offer support. Plus, she had a lot of stress in her life from family illnesses that she was dealing with, other family members. And then the other couple, they just fell off the wagon. They like to eat out at restaurants a lot. They live in an area where there aren't very many plant-based options, and they just kind of fell off the wagon. I suspect that they might get back on again. But what we did is we, spoke about that honestly in the film, and we told their stories and used that as an opportunity to explain, why building a plant-based world, it's not going to be easy, and it has to take into account a number of factors. People have to have access to affordable, healthy, delicious food, convenient food. They have to have social support. The social support is really, really important. Those two things, access to the food and the social support, are key.
Now, you have, through the years, developed different foods where people can get this online. Can you tell us about, let's say if you're in a place you don't have access, how can they just order it?
Yeah, so we have two organizations. One is Plant Pure, which is a foods business, and the other is Plant Pure Communities, which is a nonprofit. The nonprofit is the entity that produced the film. But what I would suggest is, first and foremost, people watch that film at foodtofreedomfilm.com. And again, if they want to watch our first film, Plant Pure Nation, they can find that on Amazon. Then if they're feeling inspired and they want to give this plant-based diet a try, they can go to plantpurenation.com. And at plantpurenation.com, we have a new line of food products. These are meal starter products. They're basically a line of meal bases that you can use to make multiple recipes. And so it makes eating plant-based easy. And then just today, we released something that we're calling our Plant Pure Plunge. So we're telling people to take a plunge into a plant-based diet for 7 days. And so on the website, you can access a booklet. It's a 28-page booklet. It's essentially a meal plan with, tips for how to get ready, and it's a guide to get you through the 7 days using these meal starter products that I just mentioned. So it's really easy if people want to give this a try and they want to go plant-based for 7 days. We've made it easy for them.
Well, I think this is so key because we know that plant-based diets is at the core of reversing cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease, Nelson, it's not about a plaque that you can put a stent in or bypassing. When you have the disease of the endothelium, it's about doing these plant-based nutrition, which makes nitrates, which makes it healthier, which you make all these good things that promote health and reversal. And what you're doing is such a remarkable way to prevent and treat disease. And I want our listeners and those out there to share this with their friends and neighbors. Now you can go into restaurants and get this, but a lot of our listeners know people in the food industry, people in supermarkets, people that make food. And I want you to be active with this. Take this video, take this information, share it with the movers and shakers in your community that can take this information and maybe even partner with Plant Pure Nation and get some of their food products out there and partner with other people. I know we do a lot of stuff with different entities, and I just want this message to get everywhere. And what a great way to do this in the social media and through our YouTube platforms that we have.
And what I would say, Jim, one quick thing, if people do change their diet and they give this a try, if you're taking medications, especially if you're taking blood pressure or diabetic medications, engage your physician. Monitor yourself closely, because as you do this, your body heals quickly and you may need to have your medications adjusted in real time. If you don't do that, you could have serious consequences. So whereas drugs, the side effects can be toxic, the side effect of this diet is rapid healing.
Oh man, that is such good news. That is such good news. So I mean, I'm just really excited about this film and excited about what you're doing. And when you're a sort of trendsetter and changing the world, as you and your father and your whole family is doing, Kim, everyone, you guys are changing the entire culture that we live in. And once this got started, especially the book, the China study, and the first movie, we saw this jumping up everywhere. I saw a lot of new movies. The cardiologist, everyone started beginning to talk about it. But in 5 or 10 minutes, we can't accomplish what we need to do. And that's why we have consultants like plantpurenation.com and other people where they can plug into the food, the resources. And now the next step is getting thought leaders from all over to see the benefits, not only for health and reversing disease, but also for our planet as a whole. This is going to help so many things. And I know that I wish you would just get tons of financial rewards and all of this. But a lot of your rewards, Nelson, is going to go in heaven. And that's the way it always is. If you look back at all the trendsetters in the past, it's been a few years before they've seen their reward. So don't worry. God's going to take care of you and bless you as time goes on. So thank you so much for giving us the time today. And we hope to get this out to lots of people.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Jim. And I appreciate your comments at the end. I'm a very spiritual person, and that's really what motivates me. Because I wouldn't have done it otherwise. But I appreciate those words.
Me as well. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We learned a little bit about disease reversal, but I want you to watch the movie. I want you to get some of the food and try it and share it with your friends and neighbors, because, we're all called to serve the world we live in. And it's so easy now to share on YouTube, to share links, to share videos. I'm going to put this up on our app and our webpage, and we're going to get the word out about this new movie, and it's going to inspire you or the people you serve. And I want to encourage you, if you're having a hard time finding plant-based nutrition, you can order it. They'll send it to your house, and boom, you have a meal. So I'm Dr. James Marcum, thanking you for joining me, and I'm going to be back very soon with yet another biblical prescription for life.